What's up, everybody? What's up, OU fans, especially off of the 42-3 victory, the one that they told us that we should be worried about the trap game. We're here with another edition of this recruiting pod with Chris Mason, Mr. Sooners 360 himself. Definitely go and check out the Patreon. Go check out all the content that we bump out, whether that's Twitter, whether that's YouTube, podcast forums, whatever the case may be. But definitely check out his Patreon. Chris Mason, again, always provides us good notes, credits people, and of course, no fluff. Chris Mason, how you doing tonight?
Well, I thought it'd be a little more joyous little chat tonight, but this morning did not go the Sooners' way. I'm doing fine, but our conversation about quarterback recruiting is going to be a little different tonight.
No, it's definitely going to be a little bit different. Guys, again, this is a recruiting pod. We try to keep these short, try to jump in here and do a couple. So as you guys are coming in, definitely drop any questions or whatever that you have. We'll have a little short Q&A period at the end of this. But definitely excited to be doing this. Thursday night when we link back up with Jason, we will do our full pod. And guys, I feel pretty confident about this Auburn game, but some things do have to happen, but we'll talk about that later. So again, tonight, recruiting, let's jump into it. Obviously, I think the big news of the day in the recruiting world with OU is the simple fact that Peyton Houston decided to not commit to OU. I think a lot of people were leaning in that direction. I think that's kind of where everybody's mind was at. But he chose to go to Louisiana State or LSU. So obviously we won the Bo Bentley sweepstakes earlier this year or before the season, a little bit before the season. So obviously LSU needs to get a guy in there that they won. Obviously they have Michael Van Buren that I think nobody's talking about, but at the same time, they want to get their guy in one of these classes. So they missed out on Bo Bentley, but they were able to go and land Peyton Houston. So Chris Mason, the floor is yours.
Well, they didn't just miss out on Bo Bentley. Obviously, we saw Bryce Underwood 2 weeks ago, and they missed out on him as well. So I think this is a little bit of a byproduct of that. Because it looks like it's a kind of confusing situation, Chris. Why LSU all of a sudden decided that they were going to do this mad rush on Peyton Houston, making him an emphasis. And I don't know what NIL package they offered, but it was probably pretty considerable. Because it's weird, because Elijah Haven, the number one quarterback in the country, according to the On3 Rivals cabal, is supposed to be heading towards Florida, which seems strange because I don't know about you, but Florida doesn't look like their coach may make it until Halloween. So if you were LSU, you could just sort of sit in the weeds, do your season. I mean, they look like they're going to have a pretty good season overall, I would say, and just sit in the weeds and wait for UF to implode and then pick up Elijah Haven. Plus, it said they want to also get Colton Nussmeier, Garrett's younger brother from Flower Mound, Texas. He's a lefty. So I'm not sure why LSU has made this big rush to get Peyton Houston. He's not a talented quarterback. I think he's very good. I'm not sure he wants to be part of a 2-quarterback class. At least that's what's been said publicly. We'll see how that shakes out. So I know LSU needed to get a big-time quarterback in 2027. I just think Elijah Haven was probably going to be there for the taking, or Colton Nussmeier, who is technically ranked ahead of Peyton Houston. So it's interesting because, right now the number 2 quarterback in the class, Kavion Bryant, is probably heading to Texas Tech if he doesn't choose Texas. Texas A&M has the number 3 QB from Valdosta, Georgia. We'll see if they can hold on to him. They've been having a hard time holding on to QB verbals. The number 4 guy is Brady Edmonds. He's going to Ohio State. He's from California. Number 5 is Gunnar Rivers, Phillip Rivers' kid. And he supposedly has NC State and Auburn in competition. Then we have Colton Nussmeier, who again is supposed to be going to LSU. Then we have, or Florida, because their dad is a Florida grad. Then Peter Bork, who's from Massachusetts, who's chosen Michigan. Then we have Trey Taylor, who OU did recruit for a while. He's from Illinois. He's going to Nebraska. And then we have a couple of guys uncommitted that I've not really focused or really followed too heavily. Then we have a Notre Dame commitment. So, and then we have a name that's been somewhat, and then we have a Clemson commitment. So there's a lot of guys that have already, and then we've got a Illinois commitment from Utah. So there's a lot of names that are already off the board. So it's a little strange. I think what LSU's done is a little strange considering that Elijah Haven is still in play. And I don't know how you can realistically project him to go to Florida.
So offline today, for those who don't know, we obviously were texting about this, and you used one word to describe this, which was panic. Are you still feeling that way, or have you bagged away from that comment that you made earlier?
No, I think that this is LSU has not been recruiting this kid for heavily. He's been on the back burner for them for months. And then right before he commits to OU, LSU gets him into town and then puts on a heavy push to get him. Probably gave him a very large NIL package, because they have one, because the package they gave to Bo Bentley they're not giving to anybody, and the package they gave to Bryce Underwood they didn't give to anybody. So they obviously have some money lying around. It's a strange decision. Panic is it just seems like, well, we can't lose another top quarterback to Oklahoma. It almost seemed a little bit like, well, we just can't let this guy go to Oklahoma. They beat us for Bo Bentley, and we're not going to let them beat us for Peyton Houston too, which is sort of an odd way to manage strategically manage the most important position on your roster. So that's why I said panic. That's why I think it's kind of strange. And we'll see. I mean, if they add Colton Nussmeier, does Peyton Houston then say, hey, I thought I was the only guy? Did they commit to Peyton Houston and say that he was going to be the only guy? Topher B is mentioning that, and I kind of wonder whether maybe LSU said, no, we're going to just take you. And Peyton Houston's like, okay, well, if I'm the priority, then I'm going to commit to you. So if they get a commit from Nussmeier, does that change it? Does OU go to Nussmeier? Like I said, Nussmeier is he's a lefty. He's from Flower Mound, Texas. It would be relatively easy to get him up for a game. Get him up for a game this weekend. Recruit him. Obviously, his brother's very talented. So OU could try that, I guess. It's just the only problem is that for the last 6 months, basically since Trey Taylor eliminated OU from his top 4, and then he chose Nebraska a couple months afterwards, OU's not offered any other quarterbacks for 2027. They didn't have anybody else in camp. It was just Peyton Houston, Bo Bentley, and Nash Henry, the 2028 quarterback from Norman North. He was one of the 2028 quarterbacks there, and I'll be talking to him in the next day or two. You'll see that interview on my site. So it's weird, Chris, that obviously OU didn't see this coming, and I know they've lost some last minute battles, and seem to 11th hour reversals seem to be the theme of recruiting for the last 7-8 months. But I think if you're OU, you're a little bit like, oh, okay, this is confusing. Why did LSU do this? And I think it's almost, we'll have to see how some things shake out, but I really don't understand this in context of their number one target, Elijah Haven, and the number one quarterback in the country, the 5-star guy, basically the same big guy, similar frame to Bryce Underwood. I mean, very similar physically. Why LSU just wasn't just wait and see what happens to Florida and see if Florida implodes. I mean, if I'm Elijah Haven, I'm not exactly in love with what's going on with DJ Lagway. Now, obviously, NIL is NIL, but at some point, you got to do that. Maybe LSU to just as the final push was convinced Peyton Houston that Arbuckle's not going to be here, that he's going to be a one and done along with Mateer.
Well. Before we start jumping to all of that, I think the natural question, the natural turn that we need to go to is what's the pivot for OU now in that 2027 class?
Well, the only name that's really out there that sort of makes some sense, because he's actually, I believe he's been a Norman. He's visited Norman. I'm not sure if he threw. I think he threw over the summer. Is a very talented quarterback from Benton, Louisiana, named Malachi Ziegler. But he seems to be a SMU Baylor battle. Mm-hmm. And OU hasn't offered him, so they're going to have to offer him and quickly get into his top three. And he's maybe closing in on a decision. So the top guys in 2027 have all kind of narrowed down their top fives.
Yeah.
So the question is, can OU find a guy? Now, Josh on Scoop referenced a player from Texas high schools that I've never heard of before. I'm not going to give that name out because it's on their paywall. If you want to know that name, go figure out how to get that information from Scoop. And I watched his film, and the kid's really pretty talented. I've never heard of him before. He had a good sophomore season. Do you wait for some of this sophomores, the rising juniors? Do you try and wait for their seasons to play out? Mm-hmm. Find the guy you like and then make him a priority in January? Someone who's not on this list who, so, I mean, obviously one of the issues I think that is definitely out there is, are the recruiting sites evaluating and making their final evaluations on quarterbacks too early?
I mean, that's always a question with a lot of recruits. Real quick.
But a quarterback especially, the Malachi Nelson, Arch Manning 5-star bowl between UTEP and Texas wasn't exactly. It wasn't exactly Baker and Mahomes going at each other.
No, some people are saying that 23 class may be the worst ever, but A&M might be. Said Topher B says A&M might be the landing spot for Haven if Florida blows it up.
Well, if it is, they're going to have to dump the guy they already have committed.
Then here's another. So he comments. He said, "Boys, I trust Arbuckle to find a quarterback just like he has shown in his whole career. May even cost less money."
Well, this is the question. Obviously, I believe he was part of the evaluation team that offered and took Mateer out of high school from where everybody else didn't realize his talent. There's always seems to be a high school kid from Texas that falls through the gaps and is underrated and undervalued. That turns out to be a high ceiling college quarterback, right? That almost seems to happen every year. That's why I said maybe you sit back, wait for junior film, sit down with Nagy, figure out what's going on, and then make a play for someone who's who's been underappreciated and undervalued, and make a move for that guy, add him, and then head forward. I mean, that's definitely something OU can do. It's 2027. It's not 2026. OU already has Bo Bentley in the fold. So it is not the same level of priority in terms of, does OU need to do something right now? No. But if you were, let's just say, for instance, you were to offer Malachi Ziegler and he says, "Hey, can I come up for the Auburn game? I'd like to come up for the Auburn game." He's, from Louisiana, and you say, "Yeah, come up. Let's see if it's a fit." He comes up, you offer, he comes up, staff likes him, personality wise. You spend some time with him over the weekend and offer him, and Ziegler says, "Okay, well, I'm going to add OU to my top 3, and I'm going to push out my decision time frame to get to know the OU staff a little better." But yeah, I would say overall, Ziegler's the one name that's really out there. like I said, I just went through the list of the top 20 QBs. About 13, 14 of them have verbaled already, and a couple of them are at locations where I don't know that OU has any connections. Really, it's Illinois, it's New York. Um, you know, uh, Alabama has as a kid in Alabama Trent Seaborn. That might be a possibility, but South Carolina and Alabama after him. There's a kid in Omaha. I'm not sure I would go to Omaha to find a quarterback. But overall, I would say, it leaves OU with, due to the fact that they've not made any other offers and they stuck with Houston so long, it's leaving OU a little strategically in the lurch, a little bit. Now, Topher, I've seen that I've seen you probably post that somewhere on a message board. That name, I'm not familiar with that name. So I don't know anything about Weston Nielsen out of Bastrop. I promise I will watch his film and we will talk about him next week. So Jimmy Satterfield says, why do we call the number one quarterback in Texas? Okay, so that would be Kavion Bryant, 5-star, fringe 5-star, but he looks like he's going to Texas A&M. Sorry, looks like Texas Tech has surpassed. I thought he was going to Texas for a while, but it looks like Texas Tech is dropping a big bag and has tried to move into the lead for him that way. So Kavion Bryant probably heading to Texas Tech. OU's not been involved with him. Can you call him? Sure. I would definitely make a move. I haven't watched any of Gunnar Rivers' film other than to know that he's, Philip Rivers' son. He's smaller. He's not the 6'6", 6'5", 240-pound pocket, giant that his dad was. He's 6'2", 175 according to On3. He's probably a little bigger than that. They're not, sometimes their weights are a little old and they are not updating them. But I'll look at Kavion Bryant's film and Gunnar Rivers' film for next week, and we can talk a little bit about some of the film I see and what do I think about the kids. But Chris, the question is, does OU try and make a big move for somebody in the top 10, top 20 and try and jump in, like with Malachi Ziegler? Okay, he's 6'4", 210. He's a big kid, got a hell of an arm apparently. Or do they just sit back, let the juniors play out, and find a Mateer-like guy, right? Someone who's making something out of nothing. Maybe he's on a smaller roster with less talent and he's making it work. Someone who's mobile and fits the scheme that Arbuckle says, well, I can coach this guy up. Someone like Jet New, right? Find a Jet New guy and add him and get his verbal commitment and just see which way things go.
Do we have to, with what we currently have on campus? Obviously, you could throw out the fact that Mateer has one more year, but if things keep going the way that they're going,
well, he could get let's not forget, he could get the Dylan Gabriel Heisman from the Senior Bowl, right? And all of a sudden OU says, well, come on back, right? And then if that happened, he has a great year, but the NFL says, we're not seeing it. Your sidearm stuff scares us. We're not seeing it. We think you're going to go in the 4th or 5th round. Does OU find the money from some sources that just say, well, John, just come back. We got $2 million for you for another year. Come back. Pocket that, then go to the pros. So just saying that's a possibility. But let's just presume what we think will happen. Mateer is a great year. He goes pro. Then OU has Mike Hawkins, Bo Bentley, Jet New, and Whit Neubauer at quarterback. So for 2027, you probably need a quarterback.
I mean, and that was going to be the question. That's the natural question. Is like, if we have them on there, and like I've said before, I love Hawkins. I think Hawkins is going to be our guy. Obviously, Bentley is almost damn near like a carbon copy of what Mateer is right now. Maybe just a little bit more raw, maybe a little bit, maybe he has a higher upside. I don't know. We'll see. But at the same time, in that 27 class, I guess you are. I mean, you do need to take somebody. Obviously, you need to take a quarterback in that class. But Jet knew, I again, very Sam Bradford like as far as just kind of where he's at on the roster. I think he's a hidden commodity. But I mean, there's a lot of things that have to play out. Arbuckle has to stay here probably more than 2 years, right? Then also, what quarterbacks stay, what quarterbacks go, what happens. So there's a lot of different things at play. But I mean, you do have to take a 27 quarterback. But I just wanted to see if you were going to say you felt confident with what we have already.
Well, I think the question. I think Whit Neubauer probably will move on to greener pastures next year. This is a good place for him to learn. I don't sleep. I mean, Whit's got talent. He's got a big arm. He's not without skills. So I think he would probably move on depending upon how things shake out. So you definitely, with the portal and with exits and entrances, I think you've always got to sign somebody from the high school ranks. Jimmy Satterfield's asking, does LSU sign 2 QBs in the 27 class? They say they are. That's the general consensus. I think it wouldn't shock me if to close this deal, LSU told Houston they weren't going to do that, which would put Colton Nussmeier back in play. He obviously could go to Florida where his dad went to school. But again, Florida as a major QB landing spot, that seems awfully tenuous to me. I mean, UF could be 2-5 by the time before Halloween rolls around. I mean, look at their schedule; it's an absolute beast. So I don't know. I think LSU. If you follow everything that's been said up to this point, Peyton Houston and Colton Nussmeier would be the 2 quarterbacks that they sign. We'll see if they actually follow through with that. Our Hall of Fame buddy Jason's saying it's dependent upon who the next coach is, and that's right. But at some point, you're going to fall behind at Florida. Can the next coach keep Lagway? Florida the Florida recruiting pods the next couple of weeks are going to be absolutely wild because they have a really good recruiting class with lots of top players, and every school in the nation is feasting. Calling those guys in terms of decommitting and going elsewhere, especially Texas. UF beat Texas for a couple of kids, especially Miami, especially FSU, especially in particular. So we'll see. But tracking what's going on with UF is going to be interesting because again, if they fire Napier and Haven says, "Well, I'm opening my recruiting wide open again," then all of a sudden that creates a lot of issues in terms of putting the number 1 quarterback in play for 4 or 5 different schools, Texas, Ohio, not Ohio State, but maybe Alabama.
I mean, you kind of shut Texas out because they already got the Diabell kid, right?
Well, he's this class, and he
broke this class. My fault.
Yeah, he's with the Bo Bentley class. He broke his leg, so his senior year is done, which is kind of that's sad. Never want to hear that about anybody. So they've got Diabell, but if he's losing his senior year basically, and I think that's I don't like quarterbacks reclassifying. Yes, you can see. The Lewis kid in Colorado is struggling. He reclassified. Ewers reclassified. I think that hurt him. And I don't like the reclassification thing with quarterbacks. So he's losing his entire senior year. I think that development hurts them. It makes the guys. I just think they need their senior year. We've seen that with other prospects, especially at quarterback, where they lose that senior year development, and it hurts them.
He's going to Sark. That's another conversation. That's another conversation.
Well,
Chris Mason. Chris Mason. Let's pivot just a little bit. We've been talking about quarterbacks for the last 25 minutes. So
yeah,
look, we lost that kid.
yep,
I think that we're going to make a pivot at some point, but a lot of things have to play out. But it's a long way until 2027. I think my guy Stevie G and Topher will definitely tell you we're a long way from 2025. From 2027. Let's take this one step at a time. We got some football to play. But just jumping into it, I mean, obviously the next question, which I'm dying to know, is what's up with, after the Michigan game with all those recruits on campus. Obviously, you're seeing that we're on the good side of the news. Then you have some guys are on some teams that are not necessarily doing well, right? So where are we at with a lot of these recruits that came to that game, especially off of that and on the heels of or basically on the back end of this Temple game as well?
Well, I mean, the feedback has been fantastic in terms of the guys who were there. The interviews are still flowing in. OU had so many different players there. In terms of the action, they made a big move with Luke Starczyk, the big defensive end from North Dakota I mentioned. His first 4 games are online now, and that kid is a beast. Just beastly at defensive end and at offensive tackle. He might actually be a tackle, possibly, on the other side of the ball. Elijah Harmon from California had a fantastic visit. Kellen Hall, the big defensive tackle for 2028, already talking about coming back to Norman. Oh, you had a good visit with Joshua Dobson, the cornerback. Jay Valai may have his pick and his choice of cornerbacks this year. In terms of for 2027, there's lots of talented kids that really are interested in OU, including, I don't know how you don't take and make Torrey Blaylock's brother a priority, Trent Blaylock at cornerback, based upon Torrey's bloodlines. I just don't know how you don't make that kid a priority. But if he's the running back version of Torrey Blaylock at corner, I don't know how you don't take that. And then, so they basically have had great visits. Now, there were 2 guys that are supposed to come in this weekend for the Auburn game if they're still coming in. So the first one is Jacob Curry from Miami, who is decommitted from Northwestern. He has a Miami offer, and then Ohio State offered him tonight. So he's a 3-star, but guys, if Ohio State and Miami want you at linebacker, I don't think you're a 3-star. If OU, Ohio State, and Miami want you, I don't think you. That doesn't scream 3-star to me, Chris. And then Braden Allen from Louisiana, the Tulane verbal is supposed to be coming in as well. I don't think the addition of Xavier Okafueleze, I said that real quick, trying not to screw it up. I don't think that's changed that. And obviously, with OU not getting Peyton Houston, there's no chance they're getting Booby Feaster. So you can go ahead and write that off, which might have been something that was in play if Peyton had chosen OU. I don't think there's anybody from Va-Tech's recruiting class that OU will end up trying to pivot towards because they're losing all their commits, as you would imagine.
By UCLA.
UCLA, there's at least one guy. It's that I would be surprised OU doesn't kick the tires with. It's Johnny Jones. He's an offensive tackle. I believe he's at IMG. OU, needs to add a tackle to the class. He's very talented, and I think And remember that a lot of the UCLA guys, Stacy Ford would have done some level of recruiting on them because he was because Stacy Ford on our roster was basically UCLA's GM. Mm-hmm. And Stacy obviously was kind of reading the tea leaves of the Deshaun Foster regime. And when Nagy reached out with a job offer, it didn't take Stacy Ford too long to say goodbye to Westwood and come to Norman. So I think that's a possibility. There's a defensive end that UCLA has. It's quite talented. I think they could probably take a look at him too. just to see if there's another one. Topher B says Johnny Jones is better than Daniel McMorris. Well, he's higher rated, and he's 6'6", 300 pounds, whereas McMorris has got to put some more weight and frame on some more weight on his frame. So I'd take both. Can you have enough offensive linemen? I'm not sure you can. Can you have enough development pieces at O-line? I'd rather OU sign 5 guys than 3 guys. Definitely don't need to sign just 2.
Yeah, with Beaton Bow, one of them may be playing guard.
Well, exactly. Or Deacon Schmidt could easily be a dominating inline guard. He has that kind of potential. So if you added McMorris and you added Johnny Jones, then you'd have some tackle depth. You could think about playing Deacon Schmidt at guard, like they did with Foji, or you can move Deacon Schmidt to guard, and then maybe Foji can go back to tackle. I don't know, but yeah, that's the big name I would watch is Johnny Jones. He's already decommitted. I mean, the UCLA class is all basically decommitted at this point. They've lost a bunch of the players, so it does open OU up for to make some headway in 2027 in California, while UCLA is kind of taking a bath in terms of recruiting for the next 4 months. In terms of portal activity, I watched UCLA Friday night. I'm not sure I want any of those guys in Crimson. I'm sure there are some good players on that roster, but they did not look like they were putting out anything close to real effort, and they were getting hammered by New Mexico. So I'm not sure anybody from that roster is anybody we want on the Sooner roster. So, but I'll defer to our scouting experts on staff. But I wouldn't imagine that there's an overwhelming talent at UCLA to raid. They had a good recruiting class. Had 4 or 5 guys that were really good, and those guys are now obviously decommitted, and everyone's moving on them. Johnny Jones, the only issue might be that FSU and Miami probably will make a play for him as well, because again, everybody needs offensive tackles. Mm-hmm. But I would imagine that's the guy that I would make the biggest push for. If he was willing to go out to UCLA for school, then maybe you can just split the distance and go out to Norman instead. But that's the one guy I would look at.
So I guess the question for me is simply this. So something I've been harping on everybody for these last couple of weeks is just the fact that yes, one game at a time. This is our Super Bowl this week right here. We know what's ahead of us on this schedule, but this week right here, beating Auburn means a lot, not because of the JA storyline people want to run, but simply because you always want to go into a bye week on a win, okay? Especially if you could be 4-0 going to the bye week. You know that you have Kent State there, but for the purpose of this podcast, it's important to be able to take that momentum from a win against Auburn, right? You're 4-0. People are very bullish on you. You're ranked inside the top 12 in the nation right now on the AP side. And then on top of that, you have a week where you can just recruit your ass off. You can put coaches in each direction on some private jets, get them out there, get them going to recruiting while, hey, everybody basically takes their shot at, hey, we're going to run practice. We're going to do this. Let them get back in there with Smitty. Everybody gets healthy, all the rest of that. But, I mean, it's important. This game is important for more reasons than just sticking it to Auburn. This game is important for being 4-0 and carrying on what we're already doing, sending yet again another message to the rest of the nation, but also just a simple fact that recruiting, being able to get out there on a trail on the heels of a win on a 4-0 on a 4-win win streak. That's big. That's big, especially when you're trying to kind of send home a message that, hey, we're going to be here next year. We plan on being here, and we would like for you to be here. So I'm excited about that. Are there any kids that we should know about with decision dates coming up soon, or anybody that you can see on the horizon where they're really interested at OU and they're coming back? I know you mentioned the Allen kid and kids like that, but who else is kind of on your radar as well?
Well, obviously, if they offer Daniel McMorris and they haven't offered him yet, I think the moment they offer him, he becomes on commit watch. They haven't offered him yet. We'll see if they bring in some surprise names for Auburn. It's a 3:30 kick, so you can get some kids in. I think that's a distinct possibility. But other than offensive line and probably wide receiver, I'd like a third linebacker, and I'd like another safety, and I'd like a real cover safety if they can. The 26 class is pretty full at this point, so it's about getting 27 names on campus, and unlike the Michigan week, those names haven't bubbled up yet. There'll be some kids on campus. There'll be some return visits as well. So overall, McMorris is the big name. Obviously, if you can get some traction going with Johnny Jones, that makes a lot of sense as well. Texas Tech grabbed the Gilmore kid who just decommitted from Arkansas. I would have liked them to have made a move on him, but obviously Texas Tech has sort of locked him down, which maybe means Texas Tech isn't a player for McMorris any longer. Even they have finite roster guidelines they got to deal with. So yeah, there's not that many names. There's I think James Carrington might be back on campus. They might use this for his official visit. He's off to a great start for his senior year. That's looking like an addition that maybe OU has outmaneuvered some other people in terms of picking him up, in terms of his talent level and his ability. His stats look great. I haven't had a chance to see any film yet from him. So yeah, I mean that's where we are. 2027. There's a bunch of in-state kids that could pull the trigger for OU at really any time. It's just, and some Texas kids as well. It's just, are they going to come back up to Norman? And, will that be the last visit that puts OU over the top? There's about a half dozen guys that could easily fit that category. But yeah, it's a good weekend. It won't be the same as Michigan. But I imagine OU will have a bunch of kids up. And like you said, it's every week, every game but Kent State is a Super Bowl for OU. It's an NFL playoff game for OU, Chris, right? It's a playoff game. It's a playoff game for OU. OU has to treat them all that seriously. In terms of new offers, they offered a 2028 kid who thought he was verbally to Texas and has since backed off that. He's a big defensive end kid. They offered a tight end. I haven't had a chance to watch his film yet. He's from the Northeast, I think. I need to go watch his film and see why OU offered him. It's not a name that's familiar to me. OU, Stevie G asked a great question. OU has never had a great deal of luck flipping Texas kids. With the only exception to that in the last 5 years has been Billy Bowman. And do they do that without a certain all-star center fielder for the women's softball team not being his girlfriend at the time? I'm not quite sure they pull that off without that coincidence being in OU's favor. So,
not with Grinch. Would you say no? Not with Grinch and Lincoln. That's crazy.
It took a little bit of exterior influence, I think, to pull the Bowman. Texas had a shitty year, so they were able to pull the Bowman flip. And Billy looked good last night with the Falcons. So he looks like he's going to outplay his. They were talking him up. He's going to outplay his draft rankings, just like Stutz, which is good for OU. But yeah, Texas has lots of talented kids. If I could steal one and just only one kid from the Texas class, it would not be Diabell. We got Bentley. Wouldn't be any of their wide receivers or anything like that. It would be Richard Wesley, the reclassified defensive end from California. That's the kid where I'm like, I really don't like the thought of him being in Texas Orange. He's really talented. He's really good. If OU hadn't dipped last year, they would have been in play for him heavily. So that would be the only guy. Texas might lose a couple of verbals from their Florida guys. People are nibbling around them, trying to flip that. The big defensive tackle from the Miami area, I believe they got James Johnson. If Miami continues playing like this and Texas has a dip, I think there's a chance they could lose him. They could lose. They got a player called Corey Wells, who Auburn's sniffing around. So Texas could take a couple of hits on the recruiting trail. That is definitely possible. You take Ford. You want, Jason. I'm not. KJ Ford, OU is not in. That's not in play any longer. Multiple places have reported that OU and KJ Ford. OU's got 3 defensive ends. I think Daniel Norman's having a good year. Cruel's having a good year. I haven't heard anything on Matthew Nelson. Sorry, Daniel Norman. Haven't heard anything on Matthew Nelson. So I just don't think they need another defensive end in the class, especially now that, Gil Cruz, I just mentioned that Diabell's out. That's a shame for him. I think you always want your quarterback to have a senior year of development, and that's big for them. So, but I would say, overall, I think OU's in a good place defensive line-wise in this class. The 6 guys they're trying to bring in all look really good. If you've not been watching if you watched the Temple game, Marcus Strong looks good at defensive tackle, and Wyatt Gilmore looked unbelievable off the edge. If you saw him flying off the edge, causing that fumble, and he also got a sack, he looks like he could be a real contributor at defensive end. And I thought maybe they'd move him to tight end. He looks incredible. Doesn't look like the same guy. So did that Topher B? Well, Wiltfong mentioned that, but I don't know. OU needs to fish or cut bait on that one, and Ford needs to get his ass up to Norman for either the Auburn game or the Ole Miss game, and we'll see.
Could that possibly turn into a Sims or Ranieri type situation where there's still that portion of OU fans who are like, "Oh man, we get." I just don't want to hear that ad nauseum.
Yeah, I mean, again, sure, it's entirely possible that OU recircles with him, with Florida looking. I mean, again, Chris, that's the big recruiting. That's the big story right now is what Florida's involved with so many guys 2027 wise, has so many good 2026 verbals that if that thing blows up completely, it's going to be like it's going to be like, I'm trying to find the right analogy. It's going to be like a buffet for recruitniks with kids and players and that everybody wants, especially elite athletes, wide receivers. Does Davion Grace circle back to OU? Topher B just mentioned that. Does Davion Grace say, "Hey, this whole Florida thing hasn't quite worked out the way I thought it would be"? And I know you could say, "Yeah, you can come on over. That's fine. We'll take you," because of his talent profile. Does OU need to get a second running back in this recruiting class? I think that's something to monitor with the way everything's going to go.
Do you think? I'm sorry to cut you off. I was going to say, I was thinking about that today. I was like, where is Hatton at? Are we done with that? Is Hatton solid on his commitment to Texas A&M, or is that still kind of up in the air?
Well, OU just needs to see his senior film before they'll offer him something similar to what A&M did. And if they do that, then I think he could be back in play. And I think that could be something OU needs to consider, particularly if one of the running backs who isn't seeing the field that much this fall decides to go ahead and hit the portal.
I got you.
Because then you'd have – because you lose Barnes – I don't know what Ott's doing, and I don't really want to talk about someone that's not doing anything on the field. So, and you lose Ott, and do you lose Tatum? Does he rally? I mean, he's been hurt. So does he rally the second half of this season and make a contribution? Because if he does, then I like the foursome OU goes into next fall with that running back. I like that group. X-Rob, Blaylock, Tatum, and then the kid coming in to Zephon Walker. I like a lot. I think that's a good group. But if you lose one of those guys to the portal, I think you have to think about a second high school quarterback. And, I'm not sure about a portal, portal running back. I don't know that portal running back's really been working for OU. Works for some other people, but, hasn't been working for OU so far. So we'll see. But I think second running back is something in play. If you could flip Hatton, I would flip Hatton. Just to be honest, I think he's talented enough and would be a great fit in our scheme. And I think he would be worth it if you can find. And if you're not spending the money on Ford or somewhere else, then maybe you've got the chance to spend a little on Hatton and try and flip that, because they have KJ Edwards verbal as well. So A&M's got 2 running backs. So Edwards is ranked higher than Hatton. So maybe Hatton be like, okay, well, I can go to OU. I'd be the flagship running back in that class instead. But nothing's being floated about that yet. A&M's off to a good start. We'll see what happens with them as the year goes on.
T Boomer, shut the hell up. Don't
speak that into the world.
Go down there road.
Don't speak that into right now. Don't speak that into reality.
Look,
as Michael Clark Duncan said and Ricky Bobby, don't you put that curse out on me there. So I think, again, Blaylock is obviously, he's trending much. I was a big fan of him during signing day, but he's obviously playing even better than I thought. So, and I think X-Rob's getting into shape. So, and just remember, if Brent continues to be DC, and right now I think we all agree there's no reason why he shouldn't, as long as he has Kevin Wilson as his consigliere on game day, working with Buckle, working as the intermediary between Buckle. You don't have to drop $2-3 million on someone like Knowles at DC. I would turn, if Arbuckle if OU finishes this year like we think, I'd float some of that cash Arbuckle's way and make it have to be a serious job to attract him to leave.
Yeah.
And I think Brent could sit him and say, look, wait for the right opportunity. We're going to pay and compensate you and take care of you here, just like what I got taken care of at Clemson. You're a young man. Don't leap at the first thing. Sit and wait. Wait until the right position becomes available.
People have been throwing out Aggie State, but Okie Light, Vatek. Excuse me.
I wouldn't touch that Vatek job. I mean, they are two on the surface of it flagship kind of programs to take, but
yeah,
those programs are not what they were 10 years ago.
I think you can wait as long as you want. There's going to be an SEC job out there for you for the taking when you want it. I think you put in your time and do what you got to do. But that being said, people, we've been on here for 48 minutes. We've been over here 18 minutes over the time that we want to be here. So, of course, before we go, let you guys know, hey, 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. CST time, we will be on Thursday with Jason. And we will be previewing the game. A lot to talk about there. Obviously, Jackson Nolan's coming back to town, but I think it's going to be interesting with what we see from them this weekend, simply because I don't know. It's going to be interesting because everything I think that they're going to run and what I've seen, not necessarily biggest fan of, but I mean, last year they ran something totally different with Peyton Thorne. They came out there throwing it down the sideline and then also just running a lot of quick game, just trying to get the ball out of his hands because that D line. But this year, we will talk about it then. But again, 8 p.m. CST, soon as Intel, you guys will see that. Before we go, we got to do it, y'all. I'm sorry, but he's
still missing.
Where's Bevo's body go? Somebody please tell me, where is Bevo's body go? I heard that I did get tips today. He may be hiding in Arch Manning's yard behind a trash can. I have no idea.
I heard he was installing bidets in all the toilets.
Hey man, look, people. Let's just run just for one Somebody please find this man for us.
we're just trying to help. We are just trying to help.
We will maybe one day we'll find him. Obviously he's not going to probably come back or pop up until they either beat Florida or hopefully they don't do that, but maybe they beat us, right? So maybe he's still alive somewhere. I don't know. Somebody said, "Wait a minute, what? Joey Halsley? The hell? What are we doing? What are we doing?"
Why are we mentioning the Admiral?
Anyways, people, hey, look, we'll be here on Thursday night. Again, this was a recruiting pod, so holla at us.